Good evening. Welcome to First Baptist Church's countdown to Christmas story time. To all the little ones out there, we hope you have had your dinner, bath time, and are ready to watch in your cozy pajamas. For those in congregation of all ages, grab a cup of tea or hot cocoa and your favorite warm blanket and enjoy a Merry Christmas message tonight.
We're going to have a story tonight called Christmas Day in the Morning. You can tell from the cover of this book that it's about farm life. It's really an interesting story. I think you'll like it. Christmas Day in the Morning by Pearl Buck. Rob waked suddenly and completely. It was 4 o'clock, the hour at which his father had always called him to get up and help with milking of the cows. Strange how the habits of his youth clung to him still. 50 years ago he milked the cows, and his father has been dead for 30 years. And yet he waked at 4 o'clock in the morning. He had trained himself to turn over and go back to sleep, but this morning, because it was Christmas, he did not try to sleep. He slipped back in time, as he did so easily nowadays. He was 15 years old and still on his father's farm. He loved his father. He had not known it until one day, a few days before Christmas, when he overheard what his father was saying to his mother. "Mary, I hate to call Rob in the morning. He's growing so fast, and he needs his sleep. If you could see how he sleeps when I go in to wake him up, I wish I could manage somehow to do the milking alone." "Well, you can't, Adam," said his mother. His mother's voice was brisk. "Besides, he isn't a child anymore. It's time he took his turn." "Yes," his father said slowly, "but I sure do hate to wake him." When he heard these words, something in Rob woke. His father loved him. He had never thought of it before, taking for granted the tie of their blood. Neither his father nor his mother talked about loving their children. They had no time for such things. There was always so much to do on the farm. Now that he knew his father loved him, there would be no more loitering in the mornings and having to be called again. He got up after that, stumbling with sleep for sure, and pulled on his clothes, his eyes tight shut, but he did get up. And then on the night before Christmas that year, when he was 15, he lay for a few minutes thinking about the next day. They were poor, and most of the excitement was in the turkey that they had raised themselves, and in the mince pies that Mother had made. His sisters sewed little presents, and his mother and father always bought something that they needed. Not only a warm jacket maybe, but something more, such as a book. And he saved and bought them each something as well. He wished that Christmas he was 15, he had a better present for his father. As usual, he had gone to the 10-cent store and bought a tie. It had seemed more than enough until he lay thinking that night before Christmas, and then he wished that he had heard his father and mother talking in time for him to save something special. He lay on his side, his head supported by his elbow, and looked out of his attic window. The stars were bright, much brighter than ever remembered seeing them. And one was so bright he wondered if it were really the Star of Bethlehem. Dad, he once asked when he was a little boy, "What is a stable?" "It's just a barn," his father had replied, "like ours." Then Jesus had been born in a barn, and to a barn the shepherds and the wise men had come, bringing their Christmas gifts. The thought struck him like a silver dagger. Why should he not give his father a special gift too, out there in the barn? He could get up early earlier than 4 o'clock, and he could creep into the barn and get all the milking done. He'd do it alone, milk and clean up, and then when his father went in to start the milking, he'd see it all done, and he would know who had done it. At 2:45, he got up and put on his clothes. He crept downstairs, careful of the creaky boards, and let himself out. The big star hung lower over the barn roof, a reddish gold. The cows looked at him, sleepy and surprised. "So, boss," he whispered to the cow. They accepted him placidly, and he fetched some hay for each cow, and then got the milking pail and the big milk cans. He had never milked all alone before, but it seemed almost easy. He kept thinking about his father's surprise. His father would come in and call him, saying that he would get things started while Rob was getting dressed. He'd go to the barn, open the door, and then he'd go to get the 2 big empty milk pans. But they wouldn't be waiting or empty. They'd be standing in the milk house, filled. The task went more easily than he had ever known it to before. Milking for once was not a chore. It was something else, a gift to his father who loved him. He finished. The 2 milk cans were full, and he covered them and closed the milk house door carefully, making sure of the latch. He put the stool in its place by the door and hung up the clean milk pail. Then he went out of the barn and barred the door behind him. Back in his room, he had only a minute to pull off his clothes in the darkness and jump into bed, for he heard his father up. He put the covers over his head to silence his quick breathing. The door opened. "Rob," his father called, "we have to get up, son, even if it is Christmas." "All right," Rob said sleepily. "I'll go on out," his father said. "I'll get things started." The door closed and he lay still, laughing to himself. In just a few minutes, his father would know. His dancing heart was ready to jump from his body. He was so excited. The minutes were endless. 10, 15. He did not know how many. And he heard his father's footsteps again. The door opened, and Rob lay still. "Rob?" "Yes, Dad." His father was laughing, a queer, sobbing sort of a laugh. "Thought you'd fool me, did you?" His father was standing beside his bed, feeling for him, pulling away the cover. "It's Christmas, Dad." He found his father and clutched him in a great big hug. He felt his father's arms go around him. It was dark, and they could not see each other's faces. "Son, I thank you. Nobody ever did a nicer thing." "Oh, Dad, I want you to know, I do want to be good." The words broke from him of their own free will. He did not know what to say. His heart was bursting with love for his father. "Well, I reckon I can go back to bed and sleep," his father said after a moment. "No, hark. The little ones are waking up. Come to think of it, son, I've never seen you children when you first saw the Christmas tree. I was always in the barn. So come on." He got up and pulled on his clothes again, and they went down to the Christmas tree, and soon the sun was creeping up to where the star had been. Oh, what a Christmas, and how his heart had nearly burst again with shyness and pride as his father told his mother and made the younger children listen about how he, Rob, had got up all by himself. The best Christmas gift I ever had, and I'll remember it, son, every year on Christmas morning, so long as I live. They had both remembered it, and now that his father was dead, he remembered it alone. That blessed Christmas dawn when, alone with the cows in the barn, he had made his first gift of true love. That's the end of the story. It would be great if you could find some way to do something special for your mom and dad. Merry Christmas.
Christina was so excited. She could hardly wait. It was Christmas Eve, and this was the first time she would be taken to midnight service. You're only 6 years old, and you'll get to stay up way past your bedtime. Her older sister, Kimmy, grumbled, "Mommy and Daddy, they don't take me to midnight service till I was 7. You'll probably fall asleep in the middle of everything anyway." "I'm not sleepy," Christina said before running off. "I want to help decorate the tree, and I want to go see what smells so good in the kitchen." "You smell the Christmas cake baking," Kimmy called out matter-of-factly. "And you smell the turkey stuffing cooking too. When you get to be 9 like me, you'll know all these things." Kimmy frowned. She had forgotten how excited she used to get at Christmas time, when everything was special and new to her. She was annoyed with Christina, who just wouldn't keep still. And Christina asked so many questions, but most of all, she got so much attention from everyone. Kimmy had loved being the center of attention when she was the only one in the house. Now she had to share everything with Christina. Christina walked back and forth from the living room to the kitchen and then back again. "Why is everyone taking so long to get ready for church?" she said to herself. There was just so much hustle and bustle as the grown-ups prepared for the big day. Finally, the family was ready to go to midnight service. "Wow," Christina says as she turned to the last corner, walking towards the church. The church and the surrounding trees were all decorated with tiny white lights. In the darkness outside, Christina thought she must be in Wonderland. Inside there were candles on the altar and even a Christmas tree next to the pulpit. Christina sat down at the pew with her family and didn't say a word. She just stared at the beautiful sights. Her eyes beamed with excitement. She heard the organ playing Christmas carols, and she sang the song softly to herself. "Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King." Suddenly, the church was enveloped in darkness. For a moment, only the flickering of hundreds of little lights could be seen. Long lines of parishioners stood in the aisles holding lighted candles. Christina heard a person with a loud voice read from the Bible saying, "For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord." Then the procession began. One after another, the people with the candles walked slowly down the aisle. How beautiful, Christina thought. How beautiful. She noticed that there were children in the procession. Christina, she wanted to hold a candle too. Before anyone knew what was happening, Christina darted out of her seat into the aisle. She ran to the head of the marchers and reached for the leader's candle. What could the leader do? He was startled, but he didn't say a word. Christina had stepped out in front of him, holding the candle. The little girl's face shone brightly in the flickering light. She was so proud and happy to join in the procession. She scarcely noticed the big, wide smiles on the faces of other marchers and people in the congregation. Her big sister, Kimmy, couldn't help but smile too. When it was well past midnight, Christina, 6 years old, was still wide awake. All through the holiday, Kimmy never got tired of telling anyone who would listen, "You won't believe what my little sister did at midnight service." clop, clip, clop. One little donkey, so fuzzy and brown, is on his way to Bethlehem town. Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. Mary will ride and Joseph will walk. Both of them are too tired to talk, for the road is long and they cannot stop. Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. The fuzzy brown donkey perked up his ear when Joseph cried, "At last we're here." But oh, what a crowd, so noisy and loud. And where would they stay at the end of the day? Clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop. "Do you have room?" poor Joseph said. "We've come so far and we need a bed." So the busy innkeeper shook his head. Mary and Joseph turned away, but then they heard the innkeeper say, "If you don't mind some cows and sheep, I have a place where you can sleep." The fuzzy brown donkey was glad to stay beside a manger filled with hay. "Moo," said a cow. "Ah," said the sheep. Then everyone tried to go to sleep. And when the animals opened their eyes, there in the manger, to their surprise, a baby lay. It was baby Jesus asleep on the hay, a gift from God on Christmas Day.